A city that draws in shades of light, shades of imagination, an impossible city, a forbidden one. Bluish haze and streets streaming down bundles of grass, it always feels like the last time. Days when the sky is as blue as the loss of, as grieving or falling, or days when the sky is as gray as the insistence of, as the footnotes above. Or when we know that the sky isn't blue at all, that the insistence of blue is the insistence of an existence's perceived persistence, that the insistence of blue as a saturated entity is one that humiliates, concerns, mortifies with each step down the sidewalk, the daydream that phenomenologically becomes the insistence of a snail or a palm tree hovering above everything. The thickness of the air, though, that noisy silence that you can only sit in when you are still, this is the opportune and irreducible moment of being in this city. Yes, the standard logic and majority image of LA dictates a moving landscape, the trembling half-existence of relentlessly running around, constantly driving, the view of palm trees and buildings and other streets in your car, the receding day, the sunset in your rearview mirror, the approaching deadline that tangifies time, the music, the outbreaks, the intention of space that is only felt when moving through it. But LA sits differently when you are still. When you try to take a snapshot and live inside it, and for a moment the city doesn't exist at all. It is just you and the space and the sky, just you and the air and the heat and the breath. You don't understand my devastation, that I can feel the pain of both the victims and the perpetrators, the witnesses and the listeners, the bystanders and the actors. I can feel it all, and it is heavy, the pain of the world is heavy, and in this city I can stay safeguarded by the sky. The world will end, just trust what the weather has to say, and in the end none of these tiny things matter, just the sky and its devastation that will shroud the planet in its love and its glory, suffocate us with its violent breaths. I feel compelled to touch you, but you are sleeping peacefully, and I want to will you to wake up, hold me close, and tell me that everything will be all right. Why don't you tell me that everything will be all right? Probably because it won't be. And in many cases, sadness is necessary, heartbreak is necessary. Let's just say that when you stretch out the transparent layers of the city, it becomes a confession. The confession isn't the desire for death, though there is that too, but that you miss your mother. The sun and the heat become irrelevant until you go outside to confront the light, but in the light there is mother, there is that untraceable wound that began with birth. The city changes when you do, and the confession is that each and every gesture becomes filled with uncertainty. The city is so certain of itself, but it confesses that it knows nothing when there is the sky. It's a matter of taking a few steps back to trace the wound back to the light, a frantic ghost. Not every panorama is an equal snapshot of the city, yet in the end they are all the same, confessing. It rained once, a thoughtless nod to the wound of the city. The obligation is to pass the shadow on the sidewalk and to keep walking, to skip the embrace with light. The proclamation is that you are an individual, but in one moment you are part of a mass, in another a ray of light. Here's the real dilemma, that so many moments in the city are inarticulatable. My confession is that I try relentlessly and hopelessly to capture moments via images, words. This is all a futile exercise. All of this only ends in failure. But sometimes inarticulation becomes articulation. That is, the photo I try to take, the one that captures none of the essence that I felt in that very moment when I looked up at the sky and wanted to cry, could have died right there. That the photo instead becomes the articulation of that inarticulatable moment in a way that the evidence can only be a frantic ghost too. A wound, a relinquishing of everything into a concentration of something. Let me know that you get this. I mean, photos are an example of this, yes, trying to capture that sunset, that cosmic illusion to all of space and time and the upper light of the sky, that devastating miracle of life that becomes contaminated by so many small things. But other articulations too, like, I love you. Words for one of the most inarticulatable of sensations. I mean, this isn't the same thing for everyone. Every I love you is not equivalent. There is no such thing as repetition in love, yet here are the words that claim, that attempt, that bravely endeavor to signify a specific value via language. This is as absurd as calling the sky blue, as calling the sunset beautiful, as claiming you feel happy. All of these attempts, gravitations, comments, absolutely and most certainly absurd. But I say I love you and I mean it. I mean something that I can't describe, but these words are the closest approximation, an agreed upon convention that these words will mean something close to what it is I feel. But what is important is the conjuration of all the other feelings associated with the gesture of the phrase. That when you say, I love you, I can feel the sensation of finitude and eternity in my bones, that I can feel the widening of breaths, the threat of paralysis when it all ends, an entire substantial reality built around you that does not yet exist, will never exist. When I say I love you, I recall the memories of 1,000 nights of presence, the limits of feelings at night when I am in my bed, when I am outside, when I pause to linger in a single moment of existence. Feelings reveal the taint of past trauma. Feelings become vocality and articulated via gestures. You hold my hand, and for a moment that is everything. Can I confess that you become connected to the city somehow? That the city hardly existed before you, that every sky or sunset or towering building, every glamorous palm tree, every sad one, every reflection of light off a window, every conjured sound, they all begin to match the repetitive vitality of your breaths, your touch, your existence. This doesn't have to make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that I know you, that you exist here with me. I'm not sure where you came from. I'm not sure where I came from either. It doesn't seem to matter, though at some point in my life these things did matter. So many things mattered. What matters is your touch, your breath, your body next to mine, your existence in the city with me. What matters is that suddenly, very much suddenly, I can't imagine life without you. This is what love is, perhaps, a complete rearranging of the imagination, a complete infiltration of a subjectivity that seems to defer how images correlate with each other. Suddenly, what matters is the color of the sky, the direction of the stars, the speed of light. Significance and insignificance change places. The snail, the engraving upon a pillar, quick steps, slow ones, moments in space, the density of the fog, separation anxiety, everything. I want to experience every shade of light with you, every shade in between. I want many, many things, yet also those desires fade away. It is all terrifying. One day, the city will swallow me whole, and no one, not even the pigeons, will notice. After rain. After rain, the perpetual anticipation of the next rain. Some time has passed since the last time I sat down to think of this irreducible experience. That is, when I see the horizon line burning, at sunset in my rearview mirror, the glimpse of any fire or summoned disintegration, of sadness to tears to tension to death's face to this again, when this paralysis of entombing emotions happens, I think of you. The orange, red, pink sky is burning down. It is almost nighttime. I am waiting for you. There are the little moments, that is, even if the world weren't so gruesome, it would be those little moments that would carry us through, phantom whispers of joy in joyless times. I see the horizon line burning. I think of you. The moon is behind the clouds, white fluffy ones that veil and encourage the moon's shimmer, like that pixelated glare behind the curtain when you wake in the morning to, well, wake. That is all one can do sometimes, simply to wake. After rain, the blue that is left over, that lingers, that breathes anew. After rain, the sky in the rearview mirror, the little moments, Stairway to Heaven playing on the radio, the crescendo, the birds, and why. After rain, the so much that is blue, so far, so unreachable, so present, its flickering noticed only via distance. After rain, the crisp air that taints my lungs with blue, that lies beneath that immovable, impassive sheet. After rain, you alone, you here. After rain, the impenetrable sadness of all of this. That is, I'm driving in the car, singing to Nashville's Nothing in the World Will Ever Break My Heart Again. And I'm crying, though I'm not sure why, and somehow it seems that all of the sadness of my entire existence, all of the sadness of the phantom individuals that dipped in and out of my life, all of the sadness of my mother, the sky, the world, it has all caught up to me in this moment, and the harder I cry, the more I can't stop singing, and the harder I sing, the more I can't breathe, and the density of the tears that fall, because somehow in this moment I have managed to condense the entire world's heartbreak into my own. And I can still remember your voice when you said those things that I already forgave you for. And when I look up, I see the rows of birds perched up on the wires, and the tears come more quickly, happily, urgently, willingly. Why is the company of birds such a reassurance? Why, under the scattered light of this vast and beautiful and miserable city, why the birds sitting bring forth that naked smile that only the birds can bring? Once I stared into death's face, but he didn't return the stare. Once I lay my head on a stone, but the shadow above me was too heavy to support, and I had to give in to the weight of it. Once I summoned the ghost of my mother, but was too ashamed to look her in the eye and left her there standing expectantly. Once I remembered that I loved you and wanted to try harder, but I was willing and desiring to reconcile my deepest flaws and failures and inconsistencies for you, that I wanted to be with you, that I didn't want it to be easy, that I wanted it to be whatever it would be with you. Once I could have walked away, but I didn't. After rain, we already know that it all looks different. This city, you, me. Rain changes everything, and we only know to keep deferring moments until the next time it rains. When it rains, the people in the city seem to be in perpetual deferment, the clouds that move as the rain refuses to abate. The rain lasts for as long as it lasts and no longer, and during the rain it either feels like a single glistening moment or like a deeply black eternity. I wonder how wet I can get before I am filled to the brim. Because of the weather, plans change, and so do my eyes. I can't tell colors, and it's raining all over the place, and I just want to sit down in the puddle and soak. After rain, no matter how torrentious it might have been, we wonder, where did it go, the rain? How could it leave us so quickly? The air is thick. No, it isn't. It's rather thin now. And all the bodies that accumulated inside of houses, under rooftops, slowly stumble out and blink and stutter. After rain, we stutter. No, after rain, we wait. One more, and it's the final essay of this book, and this one's called The Dogs. A black and blacker ocean beneath a blue-black sky. On the coast, white foam that bristles upwards as the tide rolls in. The ocean, thin, merely stretching out for infinity, merely unseeable, unknowable, yet something happens. Something always happens. When I write words in the sand, the water washes away the words in the sand. When I write the words on the page sitting in the sand, the wind covers the words with sand. Is this the state of things? How are my memories different as the tide rolls in from the memories that surface as the tide rolls out? At the moment, what matters is that the dogs beside me are cold. They are breathing in the exhaustion of ocean air, sand in their beards, and stunned by windy whispers beneath their chins. A different approach as dreams move across the waves and hit bodies. These dreams used to mean nothing to me, only the location of the moon, darkening lines and signs of the twilight yet to come. Aren't we compelled to remember things over and over again? Nothing remains intact under the increasingly heated atmosphere, advocates of forward momentum, but the pronouns are equally fascinating. The dogs bark from inside the home. The home, inhabited equally by air and bodies, creaks and moans under the weight of the wind. The dogs lift their heads at a sudden noise. A hand turns a doorknob and the dogs bark. Who is entering their home? The air owns the home more than the dogs do, but the air is silent, complacent. The gestures of dogs are translated into empathizable ones, but when they cry, and when they sleep, they sleep. The dog barks because he is scared. The dog barks because he doesn't like you. The dog barks because he is alarmed. The dog barks because he is sending a warning. The dog barks because he wants to be heard. The dogs do what they're told, or so it seems, but at the risk of distorting sincerity into honesty, we breathe. The dogs breathe better when their master is home, the breaths using the air built up in the space over the course of prolonged time. The dogs have been at home for an unspecified but prolonged period of time. The master knows how to keep time, but for the dogs, time has simply passed. When the master breathes, the dogs can follow, and breathing becomes knowable again. The bodies become knowable to the other bodies. When the dogs breathe loudly and calmly, the master breathes a sigh of relief because their relief is her relief. And in the home, the breathing bodies huddle close together for warmth, the gray sky yet looming outside the window. The master wonders if and when it will rain. The dogs know that it will undoubtedly rain at some time in the future. The master wonders what the dogs are watching for outside the window at night. The dogs are just watching the outside of the window at night. In every story there is a home and a dog barking. This story starts with a dog barking inside a home, and then the reader asks, why is the dog barking? The dog is barking because he is scared. The dog is barking because he doesn't like you. The dog is barking because he is alarmed. The dog is barking because he is sending a warning. The dog is barking because he wants to be heard. In every dog, there is a strong and urgent desire to love and to be loved. The incapacity of humans to be their primal and sincere selves is the incapacity to inhabit the dog the way the air occupies the home. We only know to coddle the dog and to love the dog as a dog, or in some cases as a child. But a dog is more than just a dog, and we are mere humans. When an airplane flies overhead, to the dogs a noise, to us an airplane that has just taken off. Contours of a personal narrative include time, character, space, but also hair, fur, noses, sand, points of transition into others, modes of being, the gray sky above us, the dogness of dogs as having hardly anything to do with dogs. Consider the quiet of the morning and then the sound of two dogs breathing. Consider the darkness of night and then the light of the moon only minimally obscured by the moving clouds. A dog's head on your leg is all the love you need, all the love in the entire world. One dog places his paw on his master's leg because he knows this is a thing to do. The master wonders how the dog knows what she needs right now, another warm body that affirms her existence, placates her need for something. The other dog walks over and yawns and curls up next to her other leg. The master wonders whether the dog is cold or sleepy or lonely. The dogs wait for the master before going to bed because in this house the bodies sleep together, and it is nighttime when it is observed as such by the master. The master persists because she has the dogs and their love is heavy and beautiful and she knows to persist for them. The dogs persist because they know to persist because that is all they know. The dogs are sleeping because they are tired. The dogs are sleeping because their master is sleeping. The dogs are sleeping because it is night. The dogs are sleeping because it is time to sleep. The dogs are dogs and they sleep because they sleep and they breathe because they breathe. For her own part, the master tries her best to not make any more mistakes. Stop there.